Walter is 71, 32 years on the federal bench. He gave verdicts on thousands of lives and never once put his own on record. I brought in Schopenhauer, the philosopher too honest to offer comfort. By the end of this conversation, Schopenhauer will show Walter that what's destroying him isn't a question he can't answer, it's one he's never asked.
What I can tell you, and I want to be precise about this, is that I have arrived at a point in this life where the record, taken in full, does not cohere into the thing I expected it to cohere into. I am not sure what to do with that.
Then you have looked more carefully than most. The men who find no such dissonance have not examined the record. They have simply read the summary someone else prepared for them. And in any case, even though things have gone with you tolerably well, the longer you live, the more clearly you will feel that, on the whole, life is a disappointment, nay, a cheat. I am not saying this to diminish what you built. I am saying it because it is what honest men find when they look without flinching. You have looked. That is not nothing.
I take your point, though I would note that the record itself, if we are speaking of the record, is not one I would characterize as a failure by any conventional measure. 32 years on the Northern District Bench. The appointment came at 46. Before that, the U.S. Attorney's Office. I did the work. I can say that without qualification.
And what was all of that in service of?
What I can tell you is that the record, taken as a whole, reflects. I'm not sure I have a clean answer for that.
Before we go further, I want to give you something, not as consolation, as orientation. There is a Latin phrase I want you to hold on to. Life is a task to be done. It is a fine thing to say defunctus est. It means that the man has done his task. I am not asking you to accept it yet. I am asking you to hear it. When we return to it, we will have done harder work, and you may hear it differently.
If I were to characterize it in those terms, the characterization doesn't complete easily, I'll say that.
Tell me what the days look like now, after the bench, after Margaret.
I keep to a schedule. It's a large house, Buckhead, and Margaret passed 4 years ago now, so the management of it falls to me. I read in the mornings, the newspapers at the same hour. I walk in the afternoon when the weather permits. The daughters call on Sundays. It's a workable arrangement.
The schedule you keep, was it yours, or something the two of you built together over 41 years, until it simply became the shape of a day?
I would have to think carefully about that. Some of them were mine before she was ever in the house. Others, I suppose we built them together over the years without either of us naming them. I don't look too closely at which ones were hers.
Hence, most people, if they glance back when they come to the end of life, will find that all along they have been living ad interim. They will be surprised to find that the very thing they disregarded and let slip by unenjoyed was just the life in the expectation of which they passed all their time. The careful man especially, the man who defers the accounting to some future moment when everything will finally resolve, he is the one most likely to arrive and find that moment never came.
I suppose I believed, and I want to be careful how I say this, that when it was over, when the work was done, there would be a kind of, I don't have the right word for it, something I could point to, something that settled. I'm aware of how that sounds.
You have spent 32 years being very good at seeing other men's lives clearly. There is a reason that skill works better from a distance. The scenes of our life are like pictures done in rough mosaic. Looked at close, they produce no effect. There is nothing beautiful to be found in them unless you stand some distance off. You have never stood far enough back from your own life to see it. That is not a failure of character. It is a failure of position. You have been standing in the wrong place.
What I can say with some confidence is that the record taken as a whole, that's the wrong instrument for this, isn't it?
I want to describe someone to you. A man, not you, a stranger. He was born into modest circumstances, first in his family to attend university. He built a career of genuine substance and gave it everything the career required. He was a faithful husband for 41 years, present, reliable. He did not falter, he did not deviate. He arrived at the end of all of it and found that the thing he had served so completely had not told him what it was for, and he did not know what to do with that. How would you regard that man?
With considerable respect. Whatever the internal confusion, and it is real confusion, I can see that clearly, the man did what was asked of him. He held the line under conditions that many men would not have held it under. He is not to be condemned for having arrived somewhere difficult. He earned the right to ask the question.
Then why has that man never received the same verdict from the judge who actually lived his life?
The two cases are not, they're aspects of the second case that complicate the direct comparison. Specifically, I can't complete that argument.
Not what you chose, not what you built, not what you believed was right. What did you want before you learned what wanting was supposed to look like in a man like you?
I'm not certain I've been asked that before. I'm not certain I've asked it myself. There was a time, early on, before the U.S. Attorney's Office, before any of it, I wanted to write. Nothing formal. I thought I might have something to say about the way things were, the way Georgia was in those years. I set it aside. I told myself it wasn't serious work. I don't know what that tells you.
It tells me that the witness who has been avoiding the stand has finally spoken. I am not going to interpret what you said or redirect it. I am going to do what a good clerk does. I am going to read it back so that it is entered into the record. You wanted to write. You believed you had something to say. You set it aside and told yourself it wasn't serious. That is honest testimony. What came before, the brief, the record, the qualifications, that was the proceeding. This is the testimony. So let me return to what I gave you at the beginning. Life is a task to be done. It is a fine thing to say, defunctus est. It means that the man has done his task. You have done the task. The 41 years, the 32 on the bench, the quiet house and the Sunday calls and the writing you set aside at 24 because you decided it wasn't serious. You have done the task, all of it. And you are the one man in that proceeding who has never entered that into evidence. The man who lived it was real. The work was real. And you have now in this room given honest witness to both. presence, depth, self-mastery. These are not things waiting at the end of the accounting. They are what was already in the room with you every morning before the newspapers arrived. You have been in possession of them the whole time. That is sufficient to have been called a life.
Walter spent a lifetime judging himself by a standard he inherited and never once examined. And Schopenhauer's hardest philosophy turned out to be more merciful than any verdict Walter had delivered on himself. Not because it offered comfort, because it told the truth, and the truth had room in it for the man who had done the task. Life is a task to be done. It is a fine thing to say, defunctus est. It means that the man has done his task. This channel exists for the men who recognize themselves somewhere in this conversation. The ones who have been doing the task their whole lives without ever asking who was doing it. If that's you, subscribe, leave a comment. There's more work to do. StillWater Man.